Okay, I'm going to do some preparation work for next week's demonstration at Melcom. So right now I have here, this is a plastic figure from Tamiya. It's from the Wespe kit, the latest Wespe kit. So I'm going to paint prepare the face first, and after that, for the demonstration itself, in 2 weeks time, over the weekend of June 30th, I will be doing the remainder of the painting for the rest of the figure. So you can see right now this figure has been primed in black. Some areas have not received the black, but that's not a problem. We can touch up this area. With black. And what I did is I did a mist of white from the top, so you can see it produces a very scattered appearance. Well, it does well because does well in the sense helps to simulate the texture of the uniform. Well, enough about that. So now we're going to move on to the painting of the face. So I'm going to show you how we should get a very simple results, very modest results using just a few colors here. So this is the palette I'm using right now. I have here pink, right? So you can see from the top there. So if you can see, this is like this pink, this salmon, this is actually salmon rose. All colors from Vallejo, quinacridone crimson, orange. This is a bright orange, black, as well as livery green. This is actually from the game color, right? Livery green. This is one over here. So what I'm going to do now, just going to add some water here, just to thin the paint down, make it more manageable to work. Right. So we're just going to stir this up. Okay. At this point in time, I'm not too worried about the colors now. So let's stir this up, mix it up with some water. Right. Okay, this is green, livery green. And pink. So now what we're going to do now, we're going to work with get a nice dark tone now. This is black, right? You notice there's some palettes empty, or some reservoirs empty. Reason being is that I'm going to use it to get a brown. So well, you can actually use brown directly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of orange here, and I'm going to combine it with the black, and that will help us achieve the brown. Alright, so don't worry too much about that first. Okay, so it's orange, black, that will help us to achieve a brown tone here like this. Alright, okay, maybe just a bit more, just take a bit of pink, so give it some warmth, you know. Right, yeah, so this is giving a nice cold sort of brown, cool brown going on down here. Alright, okay, so now what we're going to do now, I'm not going to use any retarders at this point in time. Top up a bit of the orange. Just to run down some of the brushes I'm going to use for this particular exercise. I'll be using what you refer to. This is the Winsor Newton Series 7. These are the regular brushes, not the miniature ones. Okay, I use this for fine detailing, fine painting. Alright, regular synthetic nylon brushes. Right. These are pretty inexpensive. As you notice, there are two types. Right, one is fairly longer than the other. This is more like a liner sort of brush. Okay, difference is that it will take more paint, alright, and this is much shorter. So the things depends on this. This is actually used more designed for watercolor. So if the paint, if your paint is using a lot more water, something of a long stock such as this will do pretty well. Long stem, as I said, will do pretty well. Produces very nice strokes. This is a bit shorter, right? I use the shorter strokes if in case the paint gets a bit thicker. It's easier to push with this rather than this, right? So shorter the bristles, it tends to you get more what do you call that? You can get it's much easier for this to actually work the paint if the paint is much thicker. So that's the two other key differences. Alright, so anyway, so back to this. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to cover. So as you can see, yep, so added more orange to the mix here. So okay, so really what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we are going to work this onto this particular tone here. So it's basically the first step is using the black and orange. Okay, I'm going to so right now I have a number 2 bristle. This is the filbert brush, right? So I'm going to use this to cover the paint, right? So it's just going to go from the dark areas. I'm just going to just lightly cover over. See that? I'm just going to work this in. Okay, into the shadows, right, and just like very thin layer. You can see just a thin film color over it. Okay, so let it set for a while. Next, I can see the color is pretty pale, so next I'm going to take a bit of orange. Just a wee bit of orange. That's nice. Okay, a bit of pink maybe, perhaps. And just get a nice warm tone, right? So just get nice warm tone. So we're looking at orange, a bit of pink here. Just combining it together, right? Now this is what you're gonna do. Is you can see that the color here is very pale, right? It's very pale. It's brown, so it's pretty cold in a sense. So what this mixture does is that it's going to help us to sort of regain the warmth of this. And same thing what you're going to do is you're going to take some paint, you're going to just drain it, unload it, make sure it's very light, and just lightly dab over it, just through the surface. That's all. So what you want to do is you just want to make sure that the surface of the paint, right, just goes over, just glides over. So what you want to do is you just want to make sure that the paint just glides over like this. This is very nice and soft, you see it? Right? So don't set everything down, just nice and soft. You can see with that you can get a very soft effect. So that's what we want to achieve that sort of soft effect, you know. In a sense, this is almost a bit like a dry brush, but you know, we are not applying the strokes vigorously, just lightly dabbing over it. And if you can, you just lightly just allow the bristles to go over the surface, you know, allow the natural contours to help define. And you can see right from here, oops, oh. Okay. You can see there's the surface here. Okay, right. So you can see right now in this stage here. And we can bring it closer. Let's see better. Yeah. Okay. So, much closer now. Oh, okay. So we can get a much closer. Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's better. Okay. Okay. So you can see with just 2 strokes, right? We can get about just 2 steps. You can get the tones out. So now we're going to work a bit darker. So any of the darker values we can always incorporate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch now. Okay, we're going to switch now from the filbert down to the liner. So we're going to do is we're going to work in the darker shadows now. Right, so for that, quinacridone crimson, a bit of a black right here, and just mix this in. So this is going to give us a very, very deep sort of maroon sort of color. Okay, so if you do not want it to be too dark, what you can do, you can always use a bit of orange, and just put a bit of orange in. You can see that. Now that will give us you can see we're using the quinacridone crimson. It's going to give us much substantially darker, but at the same time a much warmer tone over here. And like a wash, you can see that it's very thin, right? So the operative word here is to work as like a wash. And we can just take this, right? Again, remember, I'm going to unload the brush. Okay. Right, you can see this. You can, if you're able to get the DVD, my DVD, right? You can see that this is what I've done. All right, and you just work it into the shadows there, right? Like the eyes. Okay, and just lightly paint it in. That's all. Underneath the nose, lip, and jawline as well. Okay. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the paint doesn't really gather too much around. We don't want to have any too strong a boundary between the shadow and the midtones you have achieved. All right. So you can see, right, test it out from here. Same mixture again, I'm going to use the same mixture, right? And this time, right, I'm just going to go underneath. You can see now the tone is very, very dark here. So we're going to just lightly just pull it down. Right. And just take the filbert, just sort of like clean it, pull it in the opposite direction. Okay, so again, underneath the neck here, just the eye. Rotate it to the other side there. can see underneath the jawline, underneath the cheekbones, the jawline, and the ears. Okay. If there's any like sort of like very stuck boundaries, what we do is just take a clean brush and just sort of like work it away, push it away. Okay. Right. And now next we're going to put in the highlights. So for the highlights, first we're going to start to work still with the liner brush. This is a 0 size liner brush. Okay, for this we're going to sort of like use a bit of the orange, cover with the pink, and just a wee bit of salmon rose. Just get the first round, the preliminary sort of highlights. Again, you can see the color itself is very rich. So what sometimes we're going to do is take a bit of green. You can cut it. So this helps to reduce the brightness, helps to balance off the brightness of the orange by using a bit of the green over to here, right? And anytime if we want to darken it, we can always use a bit of orange, right, which is over here, as well as the black, right? So don't worry about the black. The black turns out is a bit of a gray. So if you want to sort of reduce the gray, all you need to do is just take a bit of orange. You can see, voila. Okay. So once that is done, just take a bit of water. Always you can see, notice the dilution is always highly diluted. The paint is always very diluted. You're not working with a very thick layer of paint. So I'm going to unload. I'm going to test it on a black piece of paper and see if it's just be very faint. Look at that. Right. If you want to know how to work the brushes, you can acquire the DVD, right? My DVD. Okay, so already we're going to work in terms of the nose and just apply it around the cheeks here. Now, you will not see anything first because what you're doing is you're going through a layering process. Okay, so you can see this is second pass. You also work a bit of the chin and a bit of the upper lip. Again, next pass again. Okay. So you can generally see, look at that, you're going to push this down and then reach to the corner here. So those are the areas that we are tentatively working on right now. Okay, the nose, as you can see, this is the second pass. Okay. Right, cheek again, stronger tones, is here. There's not many areas in the chin. Okay. Right, so for 135, we don't really need, a lot of areas to paint. We just need to just focus on these main areas. That's all. You just control the brush strokes. Okay. It's not important that if you want to cover large areas, make sure the width of the brush is the same as the entire area that you're going to cover. So this way, with just one single pass, we'll be able to get good coverage. Now, contrary, if you were to use a much finer brush, such as this, the tendency of getting a lot of brush strokes is much higher. So what we're going to do is, as we sort of progress to the details, you realize the sizes of the brushes is going to diminish. And I think that's a very important note that you need to take. Alright, so you can see this is the side here. This is going to push this one up here. Okay, alright. So blender strokes, I'm going to test it out first. Yep, just push it up. Okay, you will not get the results will not register themselves instantly. Now, especially if you want to get soft results, it usually takes a couple of passes. You know, and now I'm going to chin, see the first layer on. And this layer, what you're going to do is wait for the first layer to dry. And what we are doing, in essence, is to build successive layers to achieve that soft effect. Is that? So this is not really like a la prima, where you slap the color on directly. So we wait for the first layer to dry, and then we will sort of, you know, add on again. You can just dab a bit, just a bit for the eye, right? Just to bring up the eye back. Right, this layer is already dry. This area you can see it's dry. You can just slowly, you know, you can just push the color, just spread. Alright, so you can see this is the cheek there. Oop. Yep, you can see once it dries, you can see it starts to be able to sort of, like, you know, build the layers up, right? Now, if you want stronger highlights, you can add more salmon rolls to this, right? This is going to give us a sort of like this sort of a Caucasian skin tone. Now, okay, and now we can see we're going to sort of like reduce the area, right? So let's say for the chin, we used to cover the whole entire chin. Now we just dab with one section, just one point here, as well for the nose and for the cheeks. Just slightly, you know, just push up. Okay, turn it around to the side as well, just push it up. Okay, and maybe just a little touch on the upper lip. You can see once we start to get the highlights, the rest of the other details, right, don't really matter too much. So if you're looking at just very modest results, this will give you pretty modest results. Okay, and especially if, let's say, you have a diorama of like 10 figures to paint, this is probably one of the more economical and not too demanding approach. Okay, now, oops. Alright, so now you can see. Oh, you can see this is the color. You know, my finger, you can see it's very wet, so it's going to run over the place. So what you need to do, to drain, can see I've got a napkin here. See, there's a lot of just drain it. Don't want it to be too wet though, but again we want it to be too wet, not too wet, but moist. I think the word here is to be moist, right? So how do you know if it's moist? It's you just pick it up, and when you spread it, it should be very thin. You should get a very soft line. So it's more conspicuous if you put it on black here. You can see it's more it's a very soft. You can see it's a very soft line where I'm holding. You can see, yep. You see the lines are very soft. That's what you want to get. Now practice trying to get this sort of strokes, and you can use this to get the cheeks now. See that? Now sometimes you also can stipple, depending on the type of brush you're using. Synthetic brushes, you can see the tip starts to curl. And sometimes there's advantages in that sense. It gives a very soft effect if you dab. Sometimes you may not be able to get this sort of results using the pointed saber brushes. So yeah. Okay, so I just got the cheekbones out, a bit of the chin here. That's it. Okay. A bit on the upper lip. Again, I can see my strokes are very, very light. Just gently just touching the surface. Okay, a bit of the nostrils here as well. Okay. Right, and perhaps if you want to paint the eyes, well, you don't need to really get into the details of the eyes. What you can do is you just need to imply. Sometimes it's easier, much easier to just suggest and imply the eyes. Especially 1/35 scale, you can sort of like suggest that the eyes are in the shadows, right? So they don't really see it. So the more you try to sort of like define the iris, it may look too conspicuous. So what I did right now is that I added some retarder medium, right? Okay, together with the black. So what it does is that it prolongs the working time of the paint. So that allows me to work into the details. So I use a bit of black and also slightly bit of brown. As I said, we're gonna just imply the eye shadows. That's it, right? You test it out. So as you can see, it's not too wet. It'll be just moist enough, and sort of just just dab it in. Okay, so I'm just dabbing in to get the iris. Okay. So if there's any sort of like because the thing is that I've used the retarder, any mistakes can always be sort of like washed away, and try again. So you also notice that I don't really work so much on the iris. So now I'm going in with painting the pupils, right? Not so steady hand. Slightly just touch from here, right? If any mistakes, well, you can just wipe it away. I'm gonna take another stab at this. So you can see the retarder medium really helps a lot, even okay, yep, that looks about right. Okay, so the eyes there. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the lips. Okay, so usually what I do is I use a bit of quinacridone crimson, maybe a bit of brown here, so just get a bit of, okay, right. And the thing is that the color appears very strong. What we want to do is we want to just dilute it, so we're going to get a very light wash, right? So you can see on my finger, you can see I'm testing it, see it's very light. So what you're going to do is you're just going to apply just wash over through from here. So you're not going to apply a very thick layer of color. What you're going to do is you're just going to stain the surface. That's it. And then we can get that sort of like the lip, right? So if it finds it's too weak, what you need to do, and just repeat. That's it. Allow it to dry. Okay. Now, if you want to sort of like detail, right, a bit more, right, well, just add a bit of darker shadows around behind the nostrils there, so you can see it's very, very light. This is a nasal furrow here, okay. And just a bit of, now the color I'm using is actually quinacridone crimson with a bit of the color here. So I added a bit of quinacridone crimson and a bit of the brown, second brown layer here, a bit here, right? Again, very, very diluted. Okay, so when it dries, when it dries, it sort of gives it a much softer effect. That's what we are looking for, softness, you know. So what I'm doing is I'm actually using this to apply the wash in there to sort of deepen the shadows, at the same time creating a bit more warmth, right? So it's here, right? So again, same layer. Just use it to just reinforce the eye bags. That's it. And just deepen up the lips. Okay. And finally, okay, I'm gonna just maybe bring up some contrast for the cheeks. So if you want to actually more contrast on cheeks, what you can do is you just take. I'm switching this to this liner brush here. Okay, turn it over here. Adding a bit of the salmon rose. Right, you can see it's very diluted. Oops, right. It's very diluted over here. Take this and then we just unload it. So this is like a liner brush. So you don't want to make it too wet. And what you can do is you just use this to dab just on the high points like the nose or the chin maybe. Okay. These are the high points, and a bit on the cheekbones here. So I'm not dragging the line. Notice what I'm doing, I'm just gently just tapping, that's all. See that? Just taking it here, lightly tapping it, and then just pushing up. Now the reason why I'm using this is because it gives a much softer result. Right, and not to mention the point is actually very sharp. I find that doing this using this brush, it's more effective than using the Series 7 in a sense, because the points, right, the tip is not sharp at all. It's pretty flat. Okay, see now from here. Okay, all right. Just a little dab for the nostrils. Yep, bring out the nostrils here. See, notice I'm doing just dabbing the colors on, just dabbing the paint on. That's it. The chin here, cheek, just a bit more here. Okay. So if you like what you see, you can just get the DVD again. I apologize for the shameless plug here, but yeah, Okay, you can see here, you can see the strong shadows coming up, upper lips. Okay. Okay. And we can put the brows later, and then the cap can you can put the helmet over. Okay. I think this is good for now, right? Just a simple demonstration, right? It's not that complicated, right? I won't go into the details in terms of, you know, too much on the details, but if you want, you can actually continue from here and paint in the eyebrows. So what I do is I'm use black now, just a last final touch, use the black, and just use it and just line it on the edge there. Oops, too much, never mind, just wipe it off. Again, as I said, you know, I'm using a bit of the retarder medium here, and just gently just place the line there, right? Well, paint refuses to cooperate, it's too thin. Well, never mind. Let's touch up again on this part here. Right. Okay. Let's work on the other side instead, huh? Shall we? Okay, so what I'm going to do, yeah, okay, get the brows here. I'm just trying to make it sure that they are symmetrical. Ah, yes. Okay, just another dab for the eyes here, and maybe just here, just to define the pupils a bit more. Yeah, okay, we got it. Okay, I think this should suffice for now. So yeah, so if you like what you see here and see me to complete the rest of the the figure, do make a date, come by to the Penang show. It's happening over the weekend of the 30th of June. Sorry, 30th of June and the 30th of June, as well as the 1st of July. All right. Yep. Okay. That's me. That's it. Alright, see you in a fortnight's time in the Penang show. Bye bye.